What's up, everybody? I'm Matt.
And I'm Beth.
And today we're going to be reviewing the interior here in the 2020 Nissan Kicks. So the Kicks has been around for a couple of years now. It was introduced in the 2018 model year and is pretty much unchanged here for 2020, but I haven't covered one yet, and so I thought this would be a great chance for us to kind of go into a deep dive here in this interior. So clearly it's not the nicest interior, but then again, we're talking about a car that starts around $18,000, and this one, as tested, this has a bunch of silly options that I definitely wouldn't get that are a waste. Realistically, if you're using your head optioning one of these, you'd be around $21,000 with this SV grade trim, which is mid-grade. There is also an SR trim, which I would recommend you get, but we'll get more into that in a minute. But anyway, I mean, I think for, compared to the competition, it still is a nice enough interior, and it does get a lot of stuff right. The first thing, you have, these soft, comfortable cloth seats. They have good bolstering. The only thing I noticed in them over the week that we were driving this vehicle is that the seat back is kind of springy, and over bumps, I could actually feel like springs, almost like a bad mattress or something. Not quite that bad, and it wasn't really uncomfortable. I was just like, wow, this is like kind of a springy seat, and it kind of felt cheap to me.
Yeah, I didn't really feel it though, so I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's just me, I don't know, maybe the way I'm built, but just a little thing to note. So make sure these seats are comfortable when you go for a test drive in one of these. But otherwise, I had no complaints with them. I think they have great comfort otherwise. The steering wheel here in the Kicks is also really pretty cool. So this one is not leather wrapped, unfortunately, so you have this plasticky material. It's doesn't feel too bad though. It's not quite as hard and cheap feeling as some others that don't have leather wrapped wheels, and you can get a leather wrapped wheel in the SR trim. So that's the first area where the SR trim, by the way, is only about $600 more expensive. You get LED headlamps, so you get much better nighttime illumination versus the halogen headlamps you have in this, and you get the leather steering wheel. I think those two things alone are worth the $600 upcharge, and so yeah. But anyway, this one, you still have non-leather wrap, but it still is great. I love the flat bottom, just a few buttons here on it, and overall just a really good wheel. The gauges are also one of the areas where the Kicks is a little bit better than most of the competitors. While most of the competition still has standard analog gauges and a tiny little screen in the middle, here you can see you have, a mostly digital portion aside from your analog speedometer. And so, I mean, it doesn't give you a ton of information, but I just like that it's digital. It gives it a little bit more of a higher tech and expensive feel versus, like I said, basically all the competition, which looks cheaper with the gauges. But when you do scroll through the gauges here, you can see it'll show you your audio information, also, your normal trip computer stuff, and a few other little settings there. So nothing too advanced. And it would be nice to show your trip information and your TAC at the same time. Unfortunately, you can't do that because they reserve that middle screen only for your safety system alerts there. But I still think this is, again, more attractive and cooler looking than all of the competitors. So that's one spot where the Kicks punches above its weight class, I think. But coming over to the center of the dashboard here, you have this nice 7-inch touchscreen display, and this is standard on all trims of the Kicks, which is great. Now, unfortunately, they lock you out of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in the base trim, but here in this SV and SR, you do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard in those trims, and it works great. I think, they kind of took some cues from like Ford system and FCA system with their infotainment system, but I think that those are some of the best systems out there, and this is also very good. It's very easy to navigate and everything. The only thing I will say is that sometimes it's a little laggy to transition, and so it's just hit or miss. Sometimes I'll touch the screen, it'll do what I want it to do right away, and then there are other times where it's kind of slow, so it's not perfect. It's a little laggy transitioning from like one home screen to the other. But overall, not bad. I love that you have a volume and a tune knob. That's something that other car companies still, for some reason, don't bother doing. I like that they do that here with this. And, backup camera is a pretty decent resolution. And with the SR trim, you actually get a 360 camera, which is something that most of the competitors in this segment don't offer. And so, again, getting that feature at a car that's, only about $24,000 is pretty cool that they include that in that top SR trim.
The audio quality isn't super great, but then again, it is a lower priced car, so, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's not great. I don't think it's horrible either. You know, it just wasn't really impressive.
Yeah.
But it should have been a little bit more impressive because this one has this optional Rockford Fosgate stereo that doesn't have any branding on the speakers, but I think it just gives you basically a subwoofer there in the trunk. But it's like $600, and I don't like the integration either because it's this big bar across your cargo area there, so it kind of ruins the usability of that cargo area. It also makes it hard to access what's under the floor there because you have the subwoofer taking up more space under the floor, so it makes it hard to get to your spare tire, which is under there. It's just way buried underneath there. So I just don't think that's worthwhile. If you are interested in having a higher audio option here in the Kicks, you can get with the SR trim. One of the other things that comes standard with it is this Bose stereo that actually has speakers in the headrests, and I didn't get to try that, so I don't know if it's any good, but I would assume it's certainly better than this Rockford Fosgate system. And again, that Bose system is part of a premium package, so all together with the SR trim and the premium, which is $1,000, it's about $1,600 extra versus this one. You know, if you value audio and you want all the other stuff like the LED headlamps and the leather wrap steering wheel, I think it makes sense. A couple other niceties you get in the SR trim is that you get the faux leather seats, and they're also heated seats in the SR. If you don't care about stereo systems, just skip the Rockford Fosgate. Definitely not worth an extra $600 for sure. A few other, while we're on the topic of stupid options this car has, there's also this ambient lighting, which I didn't even notice was here until I read the Windows sticker, and I think it just lights up this cubby and that's it. There isn't any lighting in the cup holders or anything. That's also like another $600, and I don't know who would pay for that. There's also illuminated tread plates, and I mean, nothing against the Nissan Kicks, but I don't know why you would want to have illuminated tread plates being like, I have a Kicks. Like, it's a great little car, but that's like a $460 option too. And again, when you're talking about a car that's 20 grand,
yeah,
like spending $500 here for this and $500 for that, like,
yeah,
it's just bizarre. So that's why this one's like almost 25 grand. But
you never know. Some people might like some of that stuff, and that's okay.
Yeah.
If you do want a Kicks exactly like this, you know, it's fine. And if you want to illuminate your cubby, illuminate your cubby. If you want to illuminate your door sills, do that too. Fun. It's fun. If you have the money and you want to spend an extra couple bucks on your payment, then go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's good that they give people options. It is good to give people options. I just think that they're expensive and kind of overpriced for what you get. But anyway, moving on from that little rant, going down to the climate controls here. Unfortunately, I also have to rant a little bit about this as well. It is nice and simple with its setup, but she actually noticed whenever we were driving how it doesn't work that great.
Yeah, I was getting a little warm one day, and I tried to turn on the air, and I put it down to 65, and normally that's pretty
It's like
chilly.
freezing in most cars.
And it was blowing out hot air, so I don't know what was happening with that, but all of a sudden it finally turned on, I guess. I don't know, but it was kind of strange.
Well, yeah, we just turned down to like 60 degrees and then it started blowing cold, and I mean, you can go and manually like crank it down and crank up the fan speed, but regardless, it does not actually get to the temperature that you specify. So,
yeah.
So you're gonna have to do manual controls there. But anyway, moving on from that, storage space here in the Kicks is kind of hit or miss. So beneath the climate, you can see you have a power outlet and a USB jack, an auxiliary jack. So good to have those. You also have this bin out in the open here, which is a good size. So that's a good spot.
And
you
it's
also
lit up.
Yeah, it's lit up.
So,
very important.
Yeah, so you can see exactly what you have in there anytime you want.
And it's like 20 different colors, by the way. It's not just one. So
wow.
You have your choice. So it's like, what, $20 for each different color to choose from.
Yeah, perfect.
To
you know,
total up the $600 charge or whatever. But
blue today, green tomorrow, pink on Sunday.
There you go. So yeah, and then you have 2 cup holders, which are a good size, and you also have this little center armrest. But amazingly, they actually charge you $300 extra for this armrest.
Oh.
So that's another thing that is kind of weird. Like,
what armrest do you get when you don't pay $300?
I think it's like just something lower. I don't think this is totally empty, but it might be. I don't know. It's just like Nissan is like one of the only car companies that still thinks they can get away with charging for an armrest. I think like Subaru and like Honda and stuff did that in the 90s, and then everyone else is like, you know what, we can include an armrest for free, and Nissan still makes you pay for it here in these lower models.
Okay.
But
I don't get it. It's confusing.
Yeah,
Anyways.
it's strange. And it's also kind of weird the way that it's shaped. I mean, it supports the driver's elbow, but not the passengers.
Well, I could be back here unless I'm super far forward.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird how it juts out though, and you have this little button to open it up, and then you open it, and it's a pretty small space. You got a little coin holder here, but not great for storing stuff.
Honestly, for security reasons, or if you park outside regularly or anything like that, and you want to put things away, you really can't do that in this car. This center armrest is so small that you don't really have too much space to put anything in, and regardless of that, any other place in here is so open that there's really no privacy, so I don't know.
Nowhere to hide anything.
Yeah, I do carry stuff in my car, but I like it to be tucked away in other places that you don't see them.
Yeah, and there is also pockets here in the doors, and they are a good size. They have a bottle holder and stuff, so that's another good place to put things. One nice thing though in this area, which I was really surprised by, is you do have padded knee rests, which is shocking. Nissan has started doing this in a lot of their newest models, but that is kind of nice because no one else in the segment that I know of has padding down here. Maybe the Mazda CX-3 and the CX-30, but I think that's it. And so
it's actually pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not that bad.
Yeah, it's, you know, you can feel it's a little hard behind it, but having at least some padding here is huge because everyone else, you're resting your knees on hard plastic and all the other competitors, and so that is a really nice touch. Otherwise though, you know, you have like this weird like a polka dotted pattern here for the cloth on the armrest, which doesn't match really anything aside from this side bolsters here on the seats.
It's kind of like 3D trippy looking, but you know, if you look at it for kind of long,
it starts like morphing on you.
Yeah, like rainbows you're looking at.
Yeah, it's kind of strange. And it's not super padded either. It's kind of like a hard behind that. So that could be a little more plush. Again, I know they build this car to a price, and so they keep things cheap. You know, all the other plastic and stuff is cheap, but at this price point, that's par for the course, so I can't knock it for that for sure. And so overall, I think compared to most of the competitors, it's pretty competitive. Backseat space here in the Kicks is also actually a pretty good sized backseat. Most of the vehicles in this segment, it's kind of hit or miss as far as back seats go. This one's pretty good. So I'm 5'9", I'm sitting behind myself. I have about 2 inches of legroom to spare still, which is pretty good because even in like stuff that's slightly larger, like a Hyundai Kona, it's like tight. And this, I didn't feel cramped, honestly. I had a plenty amount of headroom as well, of course, this being a boxy crossover. The only thing I can say about the back seat is there is no fold down center armrest. So as far as cup holders go, all you have are small little bottle holders in the doors. That's it. It is nice that you do have 2 USB jacks back there, and when you look forward. No air vents or anything, but having USB jacks in a vehicle in this segment is kind of impressive because most of the time that's not a standard thing to get in this segment of vehicle. So to have that is a nice little touch and allows everyone to keep all their stuff plugged in. Would be nice though to have some actual cup holders back there, but otherwise, you know, still a pretty good back seat. Trunk space in the Kicks here is also a pretty good amount of space, honestly. So again, just get rid of that Rockford Fosgate thing that takes up half the hatch there. If you had one without that, it's actually, you know, a nice, pretty long space, pretty wide, actually fairly deep as well. So I think you could stand up several suitcases in there and stack things really well since it's a pretty boxy space. And there isn't really any storage beneath the floor because again, this one has that subwoofer and stuff. But if you didn't have that, you know, you basically just have your spare tire and that's it. So not really any space under there, but again, for the size of this vehicle, I think it actually is a little roomier than some of the competition. I think a Hyundai Kona might look a little bit smaller back there than this does as well. So I think they did a really good job with space utilization here in the Kicks. But yeah, so that's all our thoughts here on the Nissan Kicks. Overall, I think it's a pretty good interior for the class, and combined with the very fun driving character of the Kicks, I actually had some fun driving this vehicle, even though it is painfully slow. It's a fun vehicle. It's one of those cars that's fun to drive a slow car fast, and so, you know, taking this little thing to red line and having it rev its heart out to go places, it can be comically, you know, entertaining to have at times. It can be a little bit annoying trying to pass people on the highway and stuff, but if you want to hear all my thoughts on driving the Kicks, I'll include the link to the driving review above that I'll be posting here, and you can hear all our thoughts on that. But yeah, overall, I think the Kicks is a very likable little vehicle and certainly worth checking out if you're looking for something in this segment and price category. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Let us know your thoughts on the Kicks in the comments below, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.